Hello everyone. In this video, we'll see how video streaming is done through RTSP and RTP protocol. RTSP is an application layer protocol, which is basically like remote control, whereas RTP is a transport layer protocol through which actual data will be transferred. Following are the primary method of RTSP. Setup allocate the resources for a stream. Play start the data transmission on stream when the setup method is already established. If the video is being streamed, then pause button will stop the streaming. Tear down will free the resources allocated. Below are the RTSP operation between client and server. Firstly, connection is established between client and server and setup is established. Then client request for the playing video on which server responds and send the audio and video content through RTP. Similarly, if client asks for pause or tear down, client will respond accordingly. Now we'll see implementation of this using Python. First of all, we'll see server side code and then we'll see client side code. In server side code, we'll pass server port as a command line argument. Then this code will create an RTSP socket object and bind this socket into the server port. Then we will accept the connection from the client. If we get a connection request from the client, then it will accept method, store its address and a port number into this dictionary. Then we'll pass this info into server worker. Now, in the server worker, these are the few initial variables that will be used later in this code. These first are the method in RTSP. These three are the states which will be show the client state. The initial state of client is init. The run function of the server worker file will start the thread and it will start the receive RTSP request function. In receive RTSP request function, will receive RTSP request from the client and will pass this request to the process RTSP request. In process RTSP request, will first of all will extract this necessary data from the request and then according to request type will process further. If the request type is setup and our state is init, then only will processing the setup request. Before processing the setup, I will show what are the client state and how it will be changed accordingly to request. These are the three state of the client. If client is initially in init state, if client request to setup, then it will change to ready state. And in ready state, if client requests to play, then it will change to playing state. In playing state, if client requests to pause, then it will goes into ready state. And at any moment, if client requests tear down, that it will change the state to init. Now, if the request type is setup and our state is init, then only we'll processing the setup request. In setup request, we'll change the state to the init to ready, and we'll ready to start video streaming using this video stream function. In video stream function, we will provide a file name. Then it will open the file, and it will open the file in this method, and this function actually read the data, and this function will give the current frame number. If the request type is play, then and the state is ready, then only we'll processing the play request. In play request, it will create a new socket to sending RTP connection, RTP to the data through RTP protocol. It will start the thread to send RTP data using this send RTP function. In send RTP function, if event bit is set, then we'll pause or terminate the file transmission. Then we'll extract the video data from the next frame function of the video stream. And then if there is a data, then we will pass this data through the address, client address and port. Using first before sending the data, we have to make RTP packet using this make RTP function. In make RTP, these are the header bytes, and using this RTP packet of this RTP file, we'll create the header file and we create the packet, RTP packet. Okay, these are the few function in this RTP packet, like encode, decode, version, time step, payload, get packet, etc. In encode, it will create the header byte array of size 12, and then it will convert this data into the byte array. In decode, it will extract the header and payload from the byte array, and these functions are the version function return the RTP version, sequence number return the sequence number, and payload type return the payload type, and get payload return the original data. This function return the original data, and get packet method will be send the header plus payload data to the returns the header and payload data. We will make packet to using this make RTP and send it to address and port that is extracted by the RTSP socket dictionary of client info dictionary. This is the custom handler function to reply RTSP request. If the everything is okay, then we'll send the okay code, and if there is an error, then we'll send the error code. Okay, this is the server side code, and now we'll see client side code. First of all, we will see client launcher file. So in to run the client, we will run this file, and as an argument we pass the server name, server port number, RTP port number, and video file name, which will be using which will be transmitted using this we want to transmit. Okay, now this function will open the client file. Okay, in the client file there is some initial variable. These are the some initial variable, and this method actually send the connection request to the server. In this function, it will create a it will create a socket, and then it will send the connect request to the server address and server port number. This function is used for build GUI. This function is build GUI. This is the setup button, and using setup button, if we press the setup button, this code will start this function setup movie. If we press the play button, then it will execute this function. If we play pause button, that it will execute this function. If we press tear down button, then it will execute this function. Now we'll see what are in these functions. In setup movie, if the set is initial, then only we'll send the request to the client, to the server setup request. If tear down button pressed, then we'll send the tear down request to the server and destroy the GUI. If pause button has been pressed, then if state is playing, then only we'll send the pause request to the server. If play button has been pressed, then if state is ready, then only we will send the RTSP request to the server. Using listen RTP function, we'll actually wait for the RTP packets. This line receive RTP data, and this line will decode the RTP data into header and payload, and it will extract the frame number using this sequence number function. If the current frame number is greater than self frame number, then only we will process. This will discard the late packet, and if and then we'll if we get and using this get payload method, we'll actually get the video data, and this using this function we'll make a catch file using this data, and using this function we'll display this image. Okay, in a write frame function, we'll create a catch file for the image, and write the data in this file and return this updated file name. In update movie function, it will show the that image file into the GUI. I have explained this function already. Okay. Now we'll see what is send RTSP request is actually doing. In send RTSP request, if the request code is set up and the state is initial, then only we'll send the request. Then we will create a thread to receive RTSP reply. We'll increase the RTSP sequence number by 1. The initial RTSP sequence number is 0. If the first time we'll increase RTSP sequence number in every request we'll sending. This is the request type. First is the request type, then sequence number, then transport protocol, and then client port number. This is the request type, and then we'll keep track of the last sent request. If the request code is play and state is ready, then we'll increase the RTSP sequence number, and then we'll send this request. This is a play request type, then file name, RTSP version, sequence number, and session ID. Will not providing transport protocol in this play or any other request. Will only provide transport protocol in the setup request. Then we'll update the last request sent to play. If request was pause and state was playing, then we'll increase RTSP sequence number. This is the request pause. This is a request type pause. Then file name, RTSP version, sequence number, and then session ID. And then we'll update the request to pause. If the request is tear down and state was init, and state was not init, then we'll increase the sequence number and send this request, and we'll change the request to last request to tear down. Then we'll send this request message to the server. Okay. After we'll send the request, the server will process on the request and send the reply accordingly. To handle this reply, we have write this function. This will receive the RTSP reply, and then will pass this reply into the parse RTSP reply function. In the parse RTSP reply function, it will extract the sequence number of the uh, reply. If the sequence number is matched through match with our RTSP sequence number, then only we'll parse this request reply. And we'll also extract the session ID from the request, and the session ID is our request session ID. Then we'll continue. If the reply sent by server is the code of reply sent by server is 200, then only we will continue. Otherwise there is an error. If the request sent was a last request set was set up, then we'll change the state to the ready, and in setup request we'll open RTP port to the receive RTP data. If the last request was play, then we'll change the set to the playing. If the last request sent was pause, then we'll change state to the ready. And if last request was sent tear down, then we'll change the set to the init. In the ready state, we'll set the event flag to the set. Using this state, thread can stop sending the data. This is the open RTP port which is executed when we pass the setup request. In open RTP port, it will create a new RTSP socket and bind that socket to the RTP port. This RTP port is given in the command line argument. This is the handler function if we explicitly closing the GUI window. Okay, this is the client code. And now I will give an example how this actually work. So for this, first of all, we'll start the server on here I am starting the server on the port number 1025. In the other terminal, we'll start the client code. In the client code, this is the server address, which is a localhost because the server is on our computer. This is the server port number because server is working on the port number 1025. This is a RTP port for the client on which data will receive, and this is the file name which we want to stream. This is the GUI. If we press setup button, then a client will send the request to the server, and the server received this request and then processing setup request. If we press the play button, it will send the play request, and sequence number is 2. Then server received the sequence number, and it will processing the play button. Now I press the pause button, then client sent the pause request. The server received a post request. The sequence number of this request received by the server and the request sent by the client is the same. And this is then client is processing the pause request. If we again play then we will continue the data streaming. If we pause, then again it will received. If we tear down, then it will close the connection from the both side. This is the complete video streaming using RTSP and RTP method. Thank you.